Oh, the SEC and their excuses and how they've actually kind of gone over to the ACC with Miami now as well, as Miami is trying to pick up the excuse game. Doesn't bode well for them going into this matchup against Indiana here. But Zach, I've noticed three big excuses coming from the SEC and now Miami as well, kind of throughout this playoff run that I want to bring up. I want to reference how there is some truth to each one, but then there's also big lies about each one as well. Definitely want to get to that. Zach, do you have any thoughts about the way the SEC has kind of seen Indiana, the way things have gone? I do want to give Nick Saban credit because I do think Nick Saban actually had some very insightful things to say about Curt Cignetti, so I'm not trying to go against Nick Saban here by putting him on the screen next to us. It's just when you see Nick Saban, you see SEC, and I'm trying to get the best face I can for the SEC, and his is right there, so we went with it. What are your thoughts, Zach?
My thoughts resemble Curt Cignetti's face on the graphic. Like, are we really doing this? What are we doing?
What are we doing indeed? I think Indiana has broken the sport for a lot of people. I think Indiana has turned upside down what many SEC fans have believed for the past 20 years with recruiting and blue chip ratio and everything else. And Kirk Cinetti has just completely shattered that. I said it on Twitter. 2027 recruits should hate Kirk Cinetti, not actually hate him, but the idea that there are going to be a whole lot less recruits making really good money in the 2027 class because of what Curt Cignetti did this year by bringing in transfers, bringing in older guys. Yes, he developed players as well. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But doing that and with that strategy and saying, look, I'm going to bring in 14, 15 recruits, and that's going to be what I need. But then I'm also going to go into the transfer portal and bring in most of my class from there because that is where you can find proven production and not just potential. And what does Curt Cignetti say? Production over potential. And we just saw that with CJ Baxter. CJ Baxter went to Kentucky. I was told that was because Curt Cignetti didn't want him. Now, maybe that's sour grapes. Somebody's telling me that. Maybe he didn't actually choose him. Who knows? But that's at least what I was told, and I tend to believe, the people that don't steer me wrong, and this person hasn't steered me wrong before. So we are going to talk about all this stuff. Zach, the number one excuse that I started hearing from the SEC honks out there is that Indiana just took a bunch of James Madison transfers. James Madison was just the most talented team in the nation in the G6, and they just brought a whole bunch of them in, and that's all it was. Zach, do you know how many transfers Kirk Cinetti brought in year over year? When he was at Indiana. So there is some truth to this. I do need to give credit. Do you know how many?
Man, it was a lot. It's like 30, 35, something like
In
that.
2024, his first year, he brought in 31. In 2025, his first year, he brought in 23. This year, so far, it's only so far. I mean, the portal's not even closed yet. 11.
Hmm.
So he is trending down in how many transfers he's bringing in, which, if you look at all of these coaches when they first come in, this is what they do. A lot of players leave. They have to bring in a lot of players. It's just kind of how it goes. Well, here's where the lie takes place is that none of these or any of these James Madison transfers none of them were in the transfer portal with a ranking higher than 1,500 nationally. Not 150 nationally. 1,500. None of them had a national ranking via the On3 industry transfer portal rankings higher than 1,500. Not James Carpenter, not D'Angelo Pons, not Aiden Fisher.
Mhm.
None of these guys had a ranking higher than that. And in fact, four of Indiana's starting offensive linemen this season began their careers at Indiana. And Indiana has only signed eight 4 stars out of the transfer portal. This whole idea that Kirk Cinetti just got rich with Mark Cuban and went to the portal and picked up the best players out there like Texas Tech, it's just completely untrue. It's unfounded, and we need to point that out.
Well, and I think it undercuts what I think is Curt Cignetti's superpower, which is talent evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People
Looks at the
forget.
ankles. He looks at the ankles, ESPN says.
Well, but I mean, and Saban's talked about this. He was Saban's talent evaluator for 5 years. 07, 08, 09, 2010, 2011. By the way, they won 3 national championships from 2009 to 2012, and they won another one in 2015. The 2015 one was probably not with a ton of guys that Cignetti had, but probably like the fifth year seniors were Cignetti's guys. But 3 national championships firmly with talent that Cignetti identified. And yes, they had a ton of 5-stars, but you know what? They found 3-star dudes that could punch up. And that's what he did, is he found guys who would come to Indiana, guys who were not the biggest and the boldest, but happened to be really good football players. D'Angelo Pons, right? Who was not he was, to your point, the 1,560th recruit, according to On3. That's insane. And the reason why is because he was 5'10", 150 pounds. Yep. But he was developed, and he was able to identify. Yes, he's coachable. He was developed because Cignetti saw something in him that a lot of other people didn't see.
And I think that's the stuff that gets missed on a lot of this stuff, is how many guys Cignetti is bringing in that are coachable. Not a lot of people watch these player interviews. I eat up these player interviews. I love watching player interviews, listening to them. I'm sitting in my car listening to these things for not just Indiana players, UCLA, Wisconsin, you name the team. I'm listening to all these player interviews because I think you get a really good insight into who these players are and what kind of players they are for your team. And every single Indiana player just sounds like the most coachable guy out there. Like, it sounds like a dream for a coach to be able to go in and tell this dude, hey, do this, and they'll say, yes sir, I'm going to go do that. What more can a coach ask for when you can find that correct combination of talent, desire, and coachability? It's fantastic. And I think that is one of the secret sauce items that Cignetti has been able to find.
Yep.
So
for sure.
All right, number 2. Oh, do you have anything to say?
Nope.
Okay.
Keep going.
Number 2 excuse we kind of hear from the SEC, and I'll get to the cheating here in just a minute. I know, people are probably waiting for that, but we'll get to the cheating on the last one. Indiana is too old with an average age of 23. Their starters have an average age of 23. Well, it is true that Indiana does have a very old team. Indiana is an older team. They have 4 starters playing their 6th year of college football. So that is true. They have 6 senior plus players on their team. They have 4 seniors on their team, but they have 10 juniors and they have 2 sophomores starting for their team as well. And that's where the lie comes into play, is that over half of Indiana's starters are actually eligible to return next season as they are juniors. It's not just Charlie Becker and guys like that are sophomores, but there are a good amount of juniors on this team as well. And Indiana is not starting a single player that is in their 7th year. So, I don't get where this rumor comes from that, like, oh, their average age of 23. I mean, if you want to do the average age, it's like 22 and a half, somewhere in that range. So, like, yeah, I guess that's close, but still, like, they do not have an NFL age roster here. This isn't the Green Bay Packers with an average age of 25 or anything like that. Indiana is an older team, and Curt Cignetti is going after veterans, but it's not like he's hacked the system and he has, 11 7th-year seniors on this team. They actually have more juniors or lower class players starting for this team than they do seniors.
Yeah, I mean, I think you are starting to see too the reality of the transfer portal is that you have a lot of younger guys transfer out, and then you get a lot of juniors and seniors to transfer in. Like, this is going to be happening more and more in college football, because I mean, we're seeing it at Ohio State right now, where a lot of their freshman class is transferring out, and Ohio State is responding by going after guys who have played lots of football. And I'm not saying that they're doing it right. I'm just saying this is going to be a reality moving forward. So it's like, okay, yeah, duh, they're older. So what?
Well, and it's not like they are doing something nobody else can do. Like, you can't go out and get older players too. They're just,
yeah,
they're just mad because they've gone out and paid these, 5-star freshmen all this money. I mean, look at what's the guy that just left Tennessee? Jordan Ross. He just left Tennessee. He was a 5-star recruit. They paid a whole bunch of money for him. He didn't produce 2 years there, and he wants a big payday. They say no, and he goes to the transfer portal. But Tennessee's not learning their lesson because they just paid Chaz Coleman, a redshirt freshman next season. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Chaz Coleman, but they just paid him more money than some seniors that you'll pay who could probably be better contributors, better producers for your team because they've played more football. Like Chaz Coleman's an incredible talent, but he does not have the experience that some of these other teams have, and it really kind of impacts things. So I don't think Tennessee's learned their lesson yet. We'll see if they do. So
Agreed.
Final one, and this one is less SEC, and this one is more Miami fans here recently. Miami fans are saying that Indiana is cheating, that they are looking at practice film. Apparently, somebody on the Indiana coaching staff has a certificate, not a degree, a certificate in like cyber technology or something like that. So obviously, this man with a certificate is apparently able to hack the catapult system and everything else and get all the practice film of all these teams. I mean, honestly, it is one of the craziest things, and honestly just incredibly hilarious that there are people coming up with this and not just using it as a joke. Like they honestly believe it.
His name is Sonner Callions.
Yes. There you go. Sonner Callions. He has a full head of hair, and he has these weird glasses on that looks like they have a camera on the side as well. But I mean, like I do kind of get where it comes from a little bit because Indiana is just such an incredibly prepared team that it does seem like they know what's going on. It does seem like they know what's coming, but like there are always tells that every offense gives, whether it's the splits that they have with their wide receivers, whether it's how far apart their offensive linemen stand. I mean, Trevion Henderson last season, every single time it was a pass play, he didn't put his mouth guard in. It was one of the things that you could notice from watching Ohio State all season. When it was a run play, he would have his mouth guard in. So there are all kinds of little tells like that. And when Oregon threw that out route, in the very first play of the game, I wasn't surprised by it either because I've watched Oregon all season, and guess what? The first play of the game, they have tried to get Dante Moore in rhythm. If they don't run the ball, they've tried to get Dante Moore in rhythm with an out route or a screen pass, something like that off to the side in one of the first few plays of the game multiple times this season. And so Indiana did their homework. They knew it was going to happen. D'Angelo Ponce jumped the route, and it worked out for him. So I'll
it was
get
also
to the lie.
a bad throw. It was also a bad throw. It was late. It was inside. I mean, it was easy pickings. No pun intended.
I can get to the lie here in a second, but I mean, what are your thoughts on the Indiana cheating stuff, Zach?
I mean, I don't believe it, but I mean,
well, yeah, of course not. Of course not.
Yeah, but like, if it came out later that it was happening, I'd be like, well, unfortunately, this is the state of college football. Thanks, Michigan, for that. But I think the cheating stuff, I get frustrated, and this is how I felt even with the Michigan stuff. Like, cheating needs to get called out regardless. But also, and I think it was Philip who pointed this out, SEC complaining about cheating is kind of the pot calling the kettle black. Like, if we're going to say, hey, we need to investigate because this is affecting games currently, fine. But if you're just a fan base throwing stuff at a wall where there has been allegations of nefarious means for years and decades, aka Miami and Nevin Shapiro, like you just need to look in the mirror. So I'm not saying like if Indiana is doing this stuff that they shouldn't be like held responsible for it, but like in this case, like if you're gonna complain about, oh, it's not fair, blah, 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 why can't they do this? Like just zip it, man.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of people don't remember the entire like Michigan cheating thing. Like I have a few points written down here, but there are so many more, right? Like how did this whole thing start? This whole thing started with Greg Schiano on the sideline saying, "Yeah, it's kind of weird how they know exactly what's going on out there." You know, this wasn't
Yeah.
something that any coach has said or any coach has kind of put on Indiana or anything like that. Every single coach that plays them gives them their props and talks about they're really well coached. They do all the things well. They do all the little things.
Yeah.
There's no staff like your biggest thing right now is that a staff member has a certificate in cyber technology. One of the biggest things they had on Michigan was that Connor Stallions was buying tickets for friends, family members, people like that. And supposedly, we never saw the footage, but supposedly there was footage from in the stadium where those people that Connor Stallions had bought the tickets for were holding their phones up for long periods of time, recording the other team's sidelines. Like,
Yeah.
that's a
The
pretty big tell right there.
yeah, the smoke behind Michigan was so much thicker. I mean, this isn't even smoke. This is Miami fans that are hoping against hope that Miami doesn't show up next Monday.
Yeah.
Which I say that to say, like, Miami's a really good team and they have the team that could make things really challenging for Indiana. So that's not me taking a shot at Miami saying that they can't win this game. That's just like just insecure fans, which let's be real. We all can be insecure fans,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
But this is insecure fans hoping something sticks to make them feel better about themselves. It's
Yeah, and
dumb.
it's not every Miami fan. Not every Miami
Yeah,
fan is
no,
doing
no,
this.
no, not at all.
And there have been plenty SEC fans that have come out and said this cheating stuff is ridiculous. So we're not putting on all of these fans out there, but the fact that there are people saying it, we also need to clear that up. I mean, Kenneth here is talking about how hundreds of videos of film and breaking stuff down. There was film video of the Michigan sideline. As soon as the signal came in for Ohio State, the entire Michigan sideline saying pass, pass, right? Like that kind of stuff all contributed to this. None of this is here. Now, if we start getting more stuff like this, sure, maybe, but none of this is happening here. And also the
Mhm.
biggest dagger in all of this was when the former staff member of Jim Harbaugh came out and basically said, yeah, after COVID, Jim Harbaugh said, bend every rule. Don't let any rule, keep you from doing anything. And Jim Harbaugh, I mean, the biggest evidence has been everything that's happened from it. I hate to bring up the stuff because you don't want to use it as rivalry stuff or anything like that. But if we're just being real, like Jim Harbaugh did not have a control of his program. What happened with Matt Weiss? What happened with other staff members getting arrested? And not every staff has nobody gets arrested on it and stuff like that. So, but the loss of control that it looked like Jim Harbaugh had on that entire program and his staff and everything else, and failure to monitor, just crazy out of control stuff, and other areas of the athletic department looking out of control with Ward Manual and everything like that too. It's just all culminated into saying, okay, maybe who knows if cheating actually happened there, but it looks like it actually did because there's a whole lot of other stuff around it. It
Right.
does not look like there's anything like that with Indiana. Like this is just a
Right.
stupid internet rumor that people are trying to get to catch on because Indiana looks like the one of the best teams we've ever seen in college football, and people can't believe it because of the brand.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a big piece of it is, you mentioned that Indiana has broken college football. And I think that's a very fair thought. It is hard to process how has Curt Cignetti done this in 2 years? And I think this was always a possibility in this new world. And what Indiana has done has fairly manipulated the rules. And that's going to sound nefarious, but I don't mean it that way. They have manipulated the rules in such a way to their greatest advantages. They have not broken any rules. They have not cheated. They have just taken college football as it currently is and said, okay, bet, which is, I think, infuriating to some because one example, and someone mentioned like it's the pot calling the kettle black, paying players, right? Like Indiana does have uber investment right now. Mark Cuban is investing in them. Indiana is showing out as one of the great alumni bases in college athletics, and they can pay their players fairly, which kind of grinds the gears of a lot of teams that were not paying players fairly for years. But now it's legal and people are ticked off about it. And their defense is, well, Indiana can pay players now. Well, guess what? The SEC, they were paying players this entire time. Now you just don't have an advantage and you don't have as deep of pockets. And so, like, that's your problem. Is Indiana actually was, I always joked, I always thought Rutgers was like a sleeping giant because of their location. And I was like, man, if you get people to invest in that program, who thought Indiana was a sleeping giant? But they were, because you have the alumni base to invest in them and you've got the wealthy investors to invest in them. And now you've got a coach that can maximize it and weaponize it. All of it's legal. All of it's above board. They just have figured out the system.
Yeah, and I would argue even if there are, guidelines put in place and more rules and stuff like that, Indiana's at the point now where they can continue to excel. Like even if the House
Yep.
settlement does start enforcing some of this NIL stuff and start saying you have to stay under the 20, $0.5 million revenue sharing and stuff like that, I still feel like Indiana is going to be in a really good position because of Curt Cignetti and who he is. And honestly, at this point, I feel like one of his coordinators is going to stick around and be the head coach after he's gone.
Yep.
Don't think Cignetti's leaving anytime soon or anything like that. But man, if I was Bryant Haynes or I was, Shanahan, I'd be sticking around. Like you see the way everything is going in Indiana right now. Like this is the kind of stuff I was talking about when I said, at the end of the season when I said, look, Indiana is a top 10, arguably top 5 job in college football right now because things are not the way they used to be. It's not all
Yep.
brand. For a long time it was all brand. It's not all brand anymore. And although Michigan can be a top 5 job again, I do truly think that they were not a top 5 job when they were hiring their head coach because of everything else going on around it. Brand does a lot for you, but so does public perception. So does your
Yeah.
ability to, pay players, pay coaches, and everything else, and also academic requirements for students and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I think I'd be curious to talk to you about this more. But I think you can make an argument that Indiana might surpass Ohio State as a job, like this year, if they haven't already.
yeah, I mean, I I think Indiana is one of the most desired jobs in the country. I mean, personally, you have
Yeah.
alignment from the top down, you have a
Yeah.
hungry fan base, and you have people that say, look, you know how to win. Go win. Problem for a lot of these schools like Texas is too many people get their hands in the cookie jar and say, do this, do that.
Yep.
Indiana doesn't have people who think that they know the best way to do it. They
Yep.
say, Curt Cignetti, you know the best way to do it. Here's our money. Go do it.
Yep.